Hello and welcome to Detaildrummer, to a new episode. Today with us we have Michael Schack. He's a drummer. He's a DJ drummer. He owns a label. He's a teacher, as educator. He works for Drummer Online. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm a coach with Drumeo.
Exactly.
So I'm not like an employee, but I'm actually one of the 10 international drum coaches. So I stream on Drumeo once a week with a special coach session where I give insight into my drumming secrets, and I want to share this with all paying members of Drumeo.
Amazing.
But I also, of course, am known as a V drummer because I do a lot of clinics and also drum festivals for Roland, for the V drums. But I'm also a consultant and sound designer for the V drums. So
Amazing.
I also work here from my studio for Roland Japan. But I'm an independent musician, so I can do what I want.
That's the dream.
Yeah, that's the dream. Not now, because I would love to be on stage more, but we have to wait.
I bet.
Yeah.
Since I got to know your profile and got to know your career and what you do, I was really amazed about the way you kind of stretched some concepts,
Thank
you went to the electronical drums and you took it for a DJ kind of approach.
Yeah.
And all that bringing drum and being a drummer still. So I think it's really interesting in the sense that as drummers, sometimes we tend to think, oh, I play the beats or I play the rhythm or I'm like the metronome of the band, I give dynamics. But when you are able to think forward and think more about what you can do with your instrument, like for example in other way, but you had Max Roach that was a really melodic drummer at the time, and he changed the approach that the other ones had. And I think what you do and what other drummers, like those guys that do creative videos with household things, people that creativity are really they are really strong, and they put the bar up. And when I see that, and I have a video on my Instagram that it was based on your what I saw from you, so you inspired me to do something new. And
Okay.
that's I think that's what we should look for, and in people that inspire us. So did you had someone that inspired you to do that kind of thing, or it was something during your career that you started to explore more the V side of drums?
I was always interested in P-Funk music when I was very young. So when the drum computer came, I immediately saw this more than an opportunity than an enemy, because at that time when the drum computer came and it went into the studio and many people started making hit songs with the drum computer, many drummers saw this as the enemy, but I saw it as a friend. So I was, even before I became a professional musician, I already purchased myself a drum computer to practice along, to play along with it. And I especially love the drum computer where you could also program a little bass line. So I was more interested in the bassline part of the drum computer or the music computer than in the actual drum computer itself. So I started programming my own bass lines. I play a little bass on top. So this is how I started playing the human beat on top of the machine.
Right.
Even before I became a professional musician, at that time I was still at high school. I was studying economics, and then when I went to university to study more, because I don't have a degree in music, I continued to experiment, and I bought my first sampler at that time in the beginning of I think it was 89 or 1990. So after the drum computer, making a loop with the sampler became something for me to play on top of.
Yeah.
And that could be a guitar loop. But at at that time, the samplers, they didn't sound as good as now. So it was really lo-fi kind of hip hop kind of feel. So from the start, just before I became a professional musician, I was already actually being a DJ drummer.
Right.
The only thing I couldn't do is live start and stop all the samples, because at that time the technology wasn't there.
Controlling all
so
the
I needed
different...
to do it with the keyboard, not with the pad.
Right.
So only when later, when the octapad came and I could trigger the octapad into the sampler and actually assign some samples on the different pads, then I became a DJ drummer with really playing those samples live. And it wasn't drum samples. The drum samples I was playing live, but the guitar hits and the horns and the bass line I was doing from the sampler.
Pulling all the backing tracks.
Exactly. So I actually already from quite early started doing my own backing tracks, but not just start and stop, but really different parts. And then when the SPDS came in 2000, I think that was 2002, I became one of the key demonstrators of the SPDS for Roland, international drum festivals and so on. And of course, with the SPDS, I started really producing specific content, which I could show to demonstrate the SPDS. And in the SPDS, I never triggered drum sounds. It was always vocals on top of bass lines and so on, so on, so on. So for me, this became a second nature. And of course, that's already nearly 20 years ago.
True.
So it was very natural for me to elaborate and take that concept, which I was already doing for many years at drum festivals and during demonstration contests, to take it to the live festival stage.
Amazing. Do you think
it didn't happen one day from one day to another? It was a very long process, already doing it in public. But then I said, I need to do this specifically on the electronic music festivals, because I was already touring with Netsky and so on. And then I took it completely solo. So you will never see me together with the DJ on stage. You will always see me doing this by myself, being the DJ with the samples, and then playing the drums at the same time.
That's amazing. I think it's really cool. Like when I saw your shows and the way you play by yourself on the stage and everyone is looking to the drummer. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's
it's something different. It's something different. It's something that you don't see.
But it's also one of the reasons why I started doing my DJ drummer shows playing stand-up. Because in the audience mind, when I play an electronic music festival, in between
looks like a clinic.
DJs, I cannot just be sitting down as a drummer. When I stand up, there's much more connection with the audience because I can jump with them. When you go to an electronic music festival, you will never see a DJ sitting down.
Yeah, true.
You'll always see him standing up.
Yeah.
So that's why I started doing this standing up as well.
You were saying that obviously, like since SPDS came to the picture and it's a massive tool for your work now, would you say like that was 20 years or 20 years ago? So 20 years now, we have so much more gear and so much more evolution in technology. Would you say like it can get to a point that you're trying to use so much gear or technology that they can block your work, or you always find a way to adapt?
Actually, my concept stayed the same, because technology does not only mean that there's more gear. For me, the most important part is the gear becoming faster.
Right.
So I'm now using the SPDSX, but instead of having all the samples in the SPDSX, I'm actually triggering everything in an Ableton session from the SPDSX. So the communication between the sample pad and the laptop became very fast as well. Yeah. On top of this, the laptop became much faster. So now I can produce all my ideas in the laptop, take them on stage and play everything live without me having to record everything. No, I can just do it live. On top of this, in the laptop, because now the SPDSX and the laptop are so fast communicators, I can even trigger live video. So I can not only play my beats and launch all the DJ stuff, like the samples, but on top of that, together with all the samples, I actually trigger live. I also trigger video.
And now it's a whole new world. Now it's visual as well.
On every festival, now there's an LED video.
Yeah.
And you can take advantage of it. And the biggest advantage that I have against the DJ is that I can decide on the spot how long I should play this kind of beat or how long I should play this kind of beat.
Do you improvise or do you have like a set 50, that you always go through?
No. I have a set which changes every week depending on the audience, depending on the festival. And I have one big session, but I can just skip things. I can put other things inside. And I can also determine the length. Like, for instance, if everybody's really into a specific part and they're still raving, I can make it longer automatically because I can trigger it again with some extra effects.
That's one of the most valuable skills in a DJ, know how to read the crowd. So if you see like they're enjoying that, you skip to something that is similar or in the same...
Yeah, exactly. But the DJ cannot skip the intro.
Yeah.
So when he starts the intro, he has to wait for the drop. I can just go immediately to the drop.
Yeah.
If I see people walking to the bar, I will change something so they keep watching the stage.
Attention. Yeah.
That is a little bit of the challenge.
That's amazing.
There's more interaction.
Yeah, and you have to be aware of so much things at the same time because you have of your drum playing, of your samples, of your videos, of lights, of the crowd.
No, I don't care about the lights and the sound because I have a lighting engineer and a sound engineer, or I'm good friends with the local engineers and I just do whatever you want, but make it look good.
Yeah.
Okay. On top of this, I'm not moving far away from my drum setup, so they can really do something with the background lights and everything. But what I mostly had to learn is look at the audience. Really look at of course, I need to watch my instrument that I trigger the correct sample. But once that's done, and that's a matter of practice, I have to look at the audience and see how the people react. Because somebody who doesn't look at the audience will not be able to interact with what's happening. Sometimes I see, for instance, people holding their phones up with the title of a song because they know it from a mashup. And then, they have this light thing going on. And then they say, play the Aoki mashup. And then I say, okay, it's coming.
Oh, that's cool.
For instance, yeah. So I can really, that's what I had to learn. Do the technical, see if everything works, play, but most of all, interact with the audience, watch the audience.
Do you feel like, because most of your solo shows, they are around technology and softwares and computers, and sometimes you can have problems with that, like they can crash, or do you feel like that as a risk, or that you every time you perform you're going to take it, or you
minimize the risk. I minimize it. First of all, my show is not about technology, it's about the music I can play with technology, but I always have 2 laptops with me.
Okay.
So I always will have a laptop as backup with the identical session.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little bit more expensive, but it brings peace of mind.
Yeah, that's what I meant. And, like when you're in stage, you rest.
Yeah. So once there was a stupid guy who threw beer on the stage and it landed on my laptop. So of course there was a problem. And then immediately I changed to the other laptop and I could continue the show. So
how'd you deal with that? How'd you you go from you doing your show because when you're in a band but when you're by yourself, you have to deal with the situation by yourself and to have someone doing that to
the people. I say something to the people, or I always have something that I just tell them what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And for instance, at that occasion, I told them, get this guy with the beer, get him to the stage. So they brought him to the stage, and I made him dance on stage. And of course, he had to pay some insurance. But this way, it became a public
But your
thing.
punishment was to make him dance.
I just said, you fucking asshole, come to the stage. And everybody, go to the stage, you asshole. So, and I told him, well, now you have to sing something for the people while I'll change the laptop.
There you go.
And he was so drunk, so he did something really stupid, and people just laughed at him. And then the show could continue. But you know what? All the stress with technology on stage is mostly, in 80% of the cases, lack of preparation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Making things too difficult, not taking care of your cables. Also, like I see sometimes like these live electronic music setups where people are bringing synthesizers and all the cables, and then there's one cable because of the stress. There's one cable which doesn't work, and suddenly they're panicking. Make it simple. So when you do the live show, that you have control and you can immediately see where the problem is. That is very important. Label your cables, buy good cables, because sometimes you see people coming to festivals with really cheesy cables that are totally worn out. You have to minimize the risk.
True. I wanted to ask you more about now about your career as an educator. When you teach this kind of stuff, or do you when you are approached for some students, do they come to you with they want to learn concepts and ideas and planning, or they come to you for technical or both? You know what both. I mean? They want you to explain the way you see drums and the way you work with hybrid thing, or
both, but mostly it's playing.
Mostly it's playing.
How, for instance, in my case, how can you play so physically and at the same time not hurt yourself, for instance? Right. Or what kind of technique exercises do you practice to be able to do what you do? What do I need to have to play a fast drum and bass beat? So there's a lot of questions that come in throughout the years, because I teach privately for 10 years before. So all these questions are still the same. The only questions that are different are mostly the questions about gear. How do I use Ableton with my drum set or whatever? But during my coach sessions with Drumeo, there's a chat. And in the last 10, 15 minutes of each lesson, people can ask questions. And in my Drumeo streams, I always have my full setup ready. So if there's a specific question, for instance, how do I have to connect my sampling pad to my laptop? I can immediately show them. But most of the things that I do for the sessions, I have a topic which I have in my mind, and we also announce it. I use the topic for making my lesson sheets. And then, of course, you trigger questions, because people are, is this the exercise you do in the morning when you want to warm up? And I say, yeah, exactly. So you always have to start with the topic, and then automatically you will get the right questions.
True. Talking about that, you mentioned the physical way you play being sometimes can bring you injuries, and I think not that's not you. I bring you as a
people think
bring injuries. I have some like problems with shoulders and stuff like that, so I'm really interested in that part, and I don't think it's addressed that much for the usually in the normal. Usually people care more about gear or techniques or the playing and the show and the actual part, but gets to a point that you need to start to care about your health and the way you play, and to economize and minimize damage in your body if you want to do this for years. So how do you see that, and what you do for yourself, and what could you share that could help with that?
Well, number one, and this is very important, don't practice too much.
That's a statement.
Yeah, there's too
I
many
completely agree, but that's a statement.
There's some people who think that you have to have pain to be able to practice efficiently. When you have pain, when you actually feel something painful while you practice, you need to stop.
Sure.
Many people think, I'm having pain, this is a good exercise. No, you need to stop. Number two, drumming is a very physical craft. So you also need to do other stuff to compensate. For instance, when we play drums, we usually sit down. Now, very important, when you sit down, there's a couple of your muscles, like the back muscles, especially when you play drums, they suffer. So you need also to do stretching exercises to be able to, stretch it's like an elastic, it's like a rubber thing. When you stretch your muscles, you still have connection. But when you stretch them too much or you overuse them, the muscle breaks. Tough. Yeah. And that is what you need to avoid. So some stretching, of course, in my case, also not drinking alcohol helps, or not smoking, because if you're going to be a professional musician or a semi-professional musician, it's not always only about food, but it's also about what your body, what your body is addicted to. And I never saw, let's say, healthy drummers that ran into very difficult muscle problems. Most of the problems related to years and years of playing are related to getting older, not doing sports, and not eating and drinking healthy. It's not only the drums that are important when you start, playing. Yeah. It's also what you do in between your playing. And especially with getting older myself, I'm very lucky to be in good health, but also you need to work a little bit for this. So one very important rule is don't practice too much. Take a distance so your body also can recuperate. There's people that like always are doing the Muller technique from the morning till the evening. Don't do it. It will not make your Muller technique better. Just sit behind your drums, play grooves, think about sound, and automatically your body will search for the right technique to make the best sound. That is much more important than concentrating on this particular technique for hours and hours every day. And then in the end, you have muscle problems, you have tendinitis, carpal tunnel, because you're doing too much.
True. Completely agree with that. Would you say you had some role model at some point when you're growing up? As it can be like, it doesn't necessarily needs to be some like famous drummer or someone like that. It can be like someone that actually influenced you to be what you are now.
It's not one person. It's actually more like music in general. Like, for instance, P-Funk, George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic, Bootsy Collins on the bass, Level 42, Mark King. He's a very good drummer. He became a bass player after being a good drummer. It's more these kind of stories that inspired me a lot. Also sound, like, for instance, electronic music. Like when the first time I heard Deadmau5, and that was in the beginning of the 90s, I was like, what the fuck? This is kick. bass, yeah, this is what I want to do with my electronic drums. So it's more this kind of thing. It can be producers, it can be a band like, for instance, Foo Fighters or Muse. They inspire me as well.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to a Muse concert, I see 3 people with technology involved. Incredible concert, good players. That's the kind of things that inspire me a lot. And then when I get home, I just want to, wow, I need to do this and arpeggio and a little bit of. So it's more like different influences. And also a very important influence for me is just visiting big cities.
Really?
The urban kind of thing. For the music I play, I like street beats. I like breakdancing. I like seeing people just, like for instance, in the subway in New York or in Rome, just playing with a very small drum set and trying to do something. Maybe so. I think the hip hop culture is one of my biggest influences.
Would you say like traveling and getting to know new cultures influences your playing a lot?
Not the cultures by themselves. It's more the places.
Mm-hmm. So the vibe that is around that place.
Yeah, I'm not going to India to learn about yoga. No, I'm going to India. I'm not going to India to learn about tabla drums. No, when I visit India, I see the energy of New Delhi, for instance, or Mumbai. I see the energy. I see the contrast between very rich people and very poor people. And in the middle, there's a lot of people that, for instance, play some kind of music without thinking about it, just playing their grooves. That's what inspires me. But I always find this kind of inspiration in cities, never on the countryside.
Right. That's interesting. Like,
yeah,
because there's, for example, if you talk about like some country songwriter, maybe you would say like exactly the opposite. If I go to the city, I can't think because it's too much. And it's cool. It's cool, like how different moods and different ambience can change, the way you produce or not.
I know there are a lot of drummers who have idols.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I have a lot of idols. There might be a 13-year-old guy like Dominic McNabb, from South Africa, who's 13 years old. He's taking over Instagram, and he inspires me because I see myself as a crazy young guy wanting to play fast. I see myself in him, but he plays his ass off. But on the other hand, there's also a lot of drummers who only are the holy saint of Jeff Porcaro, or for instance,
the elitists.
But the thing is, that is already done.
Yeah, true.
That is already history. And there's a lot of drummers who tell me, you should play exactly the same beat. But then I say, no, I want to do my own interpretation, because this beat, it's already history. It's already recorded. I don't have to play like on the record because it's not my record. So this kind of tension between what is already being done and then making it my own, that is actually my goal.
That's amazing. And then that's exactly the kind of answer that I wanted, like something that is natural, because when you focus on someone or doing something too much,
you miss a lot.
You miss the rest.
Yeah, it's tunnel view.
You need to open up. Yeah. And that's exactly. I think now more than ever, drummers and musicians in general, it's really important to know a little bit of everything, know a little bit of marketing, know a little bit of video, know a little bit of production, know a little bit of composing, even if you're drummer, because there's that idea that drummers don't compose, and that's so wrong. Like, you see so many drummers composing now, and good stuff, that's an idea.
Actually, to be very honest, that is not new.
Yeah.
Because for instance, if you look at the history of pop music, there's a lot of drummers who actually became very good sound engineers. Maybe they were not very professional drummers, But there's also a couple of drummers who became incredible music producers, like Narada Michael Walden, for instance. He made so many #1 hits, but he was just a drummer. But in the LA session, he started producing albums, and he came up with a new sound and a new way of producing and so on. So for instance, a good example, Phil Collins. He's not just a drummer. No. He's a singer, a producer, a songwriter. So the fact that many people think now drummers need to do more things, well, actually, there were already a lot of drummers who were already doing this in the 70s and 80s. So it's not something new, but now with social media, maybe it's more visible.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that definitely you see more stuff online now, and that can have double effect on you, because at least I think that when you're saying, for example, that kid with 13 years old that you see and inspires you, that can be something. But for you, it's good because it inspires you. But for someone else, it looks at that kid and he thinks, I'm 25 and this kid is 13 and I don't play as half of it, and that put them lower.
That's negative reaction. And a lot of older drummers, for instance, say, when they see younger players play on socials, they say, it's too much, it's too busy, it's not musical enough. Well, fuck you, because when you start playing as a young guy, you want to be busy. You want to go fast. Let them go fast, because this is the age where you can actually build your tension and build your muscles. If this 13-year-old guy needs to play Rosanna all the time, well, then by the age of 25, he's only going to play Rosanna 100% perfectly, but no soul, no sex, no, no
life.
No, life, okay, but very one-sided.
Yeah.
You need to be crazy when you're young.
Completely agree.
You need to play too loud. You need to crash a cymbal. You need to make mistakes. And the only way to learn from mistakes is to make them. So there you go.
Amazing. Michael, I think I have enough.
Good.
Thank you very much for this interview. If you want to know more about Michael, go to his social media, to his website, and get to know all about him. I think you should.
Thank you for the invitation.
No problem. It's my pleasure. Also, if you like this type of interviews and you want to see more of this kind of stuff, subscribe the channel and give it a like. I hope to see you next time.